to another episode of Paranormal, the New Normal. I'm your host, as always, Jeremy, and here to make the world seem a little more normal. And tonight, that's kind of going to happen. But I am so excited because my guest this week is my first ever returning guest. And she was actually my fifth guest ever way back in April, end of April, May, somewhere around there. But she said she wanted to come back on when her next book released, and I was looking forward to it for the last 8 months. So my guest this tonight is Eleanor Wagner, author, podcaster, multi-podcaster like myself, and just all-around amazing person in the paranormal field. How you doing tonight, Eleanor?
Great. Thank you so much for having me back on. It's good to see you again, Jeremy.
Great to see you as well. I always happy to have any guest back on. Just usually a busy schedule, but as soon as you messaged me about it, I was like, oh, I will make time this week for you. You kidding me?
Well, thank you. Appreciate that.
Of course. So you're back on. I don't have to ask the same questions I always did because you answered them already. Go back to that episode, folks, if you want to hear the answers to the usual questions. But let's talk about your new book, part three, I believe, right?
Yeah, Sussex County Hauntings and Other Strange Phenomena, Part 3. If you remember, last year I had stopped and I had written a book called Warren County Hauntings and Other Strange Phenomena. And I had so many stories left over from Sussex County, I figured I'd write the final and third book for Sussex County and get it up and out of the way. So this particular book features a whole chapter on reincarnation, which I'm blown away by all the people that came out to tell me their stories, both old and young. And I talk about ghost stories from around other parts of New Jersey and ghost stories from around the country. So I've kind of opened up um, that option to talking about other things that are haunting around the world and the country. And I'm open to all ghost stories that are true accounts for anyone who wants to share.
Yes, please share because I have her first three books and they are amazing.
Thank you.
Many good nights when my wife wouldn't let me have the TV remote. I sat there reading them. So,
I always say it's not such a good idea to read them at night because some of the stories might keep you awake, but
nah, I can watch the bloodiest horror movies like Saw and Hostel and sleep like a baby.
oh, you're one of those, huh? Oh God, no. I'll be looking at things lurking in the corner. Even though I'm a paranormal investigator and I'm in my own house and I've watched something that's frightening on TV, I still have a hard time.
Oh no, I mean, I know there are spirits living in my house. I don't. It doesn't bother me one bit. Like I'm in the process trying to get them cleansed out of the house, but just so I don't know. Weird things happen in the garage, and I can't explain it. And whatever it is, I did a test I was told to by a paranormal investigator, and it likes whiskey, whatever it is.
Oh, okay, well, it could be somebody that's attached to the land who
Hmm.
likes the whiskey. I mean, usually it's like a miner or, something that was there on that property a long time ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we believe it's the 90-something-year-old man who lived in that house until shortly before he died.
Okay, could be. Yeah. Have you tried
Because
sage in the house, Jeremy? Have you gotten some sage?
no, I haven't, because I heard a Native American on another podcast saying that unless you are gifted the sage by a friend or neighbor or you grow it yourself, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't go buy it because that just makes it ineffective.
Okay, well then it wouldn't have worked for me then, and I'm not an expert in it, and I use it all the time. In
I
fact,
mean,
when I first started paranormal investigating, I really didn't take protective measures to not bring anything home with me, and I did bring stuff home with me, and I started having um, not I don't want to say night terrors, but sort of like being awoken in that respect, and so I got the sage that was recommended to me and did the routine that I was told to do. And then after that, um, my daughter was having the same stuff happen to her, so I made sure I did the whole salting too. It's like when you go around with the sage through the house and then you salt the outside perimeter of your home. And then it stopped after that. So I made sure from that point on I was wearing protective stones and protective oils and saying, the necessary verbiage that you need when you first go in and when you go out, so that nothing follows you home. Of course, there's never a guarantee, but that usually works like 90% of the time I've found. So,
Yeah, I mean, it's just the one spirit I believe, but we're not positive. I mean, I've had multiple people on this show that like are mediums and psychics, and some of them have said they can sense it like remotely, like just by honing in
mm-hmm.
on where I am, and that they say the garage is hard to breathe in when they're in there. It's like something's really just taking up the space.
I wonder if that's where he hung out with, like, what that was his workplace, his like workshop kind of thing when he was alive or something.
Based on how he Mickey Mouse the house and how the garage looks, would 100% guess that. And
Hmm.
she said, like, she asked me, like, was he into like antique old cars or anything like that? And I, I'm like, there was a nice Beamer sitting in the driveway when we bought the house, but other than that, like,
Oh,
I have
okay.
no idea.
Hmm.
So I mean, that's the only thing I could think of be is him just puttering around the garage, and my wife will sometimes see something at night, like walking back and forth in the driveway. So going back between the carport and the
Have you
garage.
ever had like a say security camera or put anything out to see if you could catch it?
My wife wants a security camera. I just haven't wanted to spend the money on it yet. Like it's just
Oh, because you'd be surprised what you could catch on them. It's amazing.
mm, yeah. I mean, it's we should really. I don't know. I'm just looking to get him cleansed out at this point. He needs to move on and go where he needs to go. But it's so interesting to me that your new book's gonna have a reincarnation section because I'm a huge
Yeah.
proponent and like lover of reincarnation. For anybody who listens to this show, they know that. Like I bring it up with people all the time. But
When
I
I
have
when I
to,
start delving into a topic like that, when I take something new like that, I really like research it to the point of I've researched it like crazy, and I'll read all sorts of books on it and learn about it, and then I'll do that like introduction and explaining to people who are not familiar with whatever the topic is to fill them in on it and have some backup information and facts. And then I go into telling the true account stories. And this time I got a woman who shared with me about her 5-year-old child who is telling her about his previous life and how he died and that she's not his first mommy, which is really cool because it's for people to come out of the woodwork and share these stories with you. It's very rare. You know what I'm saying? And then the other story is from my boss at the Paranormal UK. He's sharing his reincarnation stories. There's some really pretty cool stories in there, and it just because I've had my own feelings about reincarnation. I've had my own dreams about reincarnation. I've had past life regressions myself. So it was definitely a topic I wanted to cover, and I was very appreciative to the people that shared their stories with me.
yeah. I mean, I've heard of kids before that like they can remember things that they shouldn't be able to remember. Like one was an expert on World War II fighter planes, and it's like, how would a 4 or 5 year old be an expert on that in the 90s or 80s, whenever it was? Like that's just
Exactly.
it's unlikely
Exactly.
and it's amazing. Or I mean, the famous story of the little girl in India who remembered where her husband from her previous life lived, and she actually went to the house and was able to tell the guy that lived there, who was her husband at one point, like when they built things, when they did a renovation on the house. Like it was incredible.
You know that in India they are very, very open minded about reincarnation. It's a huge part of their lives, and they believe it and nurture it in their children. And if they're able to reconnect with previous life previous life family members, they do it and they actually include them in their present lives. It's really, really cool the way they handle reincarnation. Whereas in the United States, people are more fearful of that, but I think it's changing. I think now people are becoming more receptive to things having to do with reincarnation and the truth of it, and believing it if someone comes out with information, especially if the facts can be um, verified.
Yeah, I mean, it's just some of the stories I've heard are just so freaking incredible. Reincarnation, and it's one of my favorite topics, honestly, in the paranormal world, spiritual world, whatever you want to call it.
Yes.
So, what other top? I mean, what other topics has your book cover besides the usual haunting stories?
Well, of
Is
course,
it?
I live in Sussex County, New Jersey. So this book is part three of the Sussex County Hauntings true accounts. One and two are they're all different true account stories. There's no location that I've written about twice. So this is a whole slew of new stories that have not been written about before. And what else do I talk about? More visits from deceased loved ones, since that was so well received by the public that they really liked to hear the stories of um, people getting visits from their deceased loved ones, and those very moving stories and messages that they received. So I wrote a whole chapter on that again. And because I've had people come from all over the country and all over the world with stories, some of them are so good, I don't want to turn them away. So that's why I opted to write chapters on other parts of New Jersey and other parts of the country and other parts of the world, because the stories were too good to turn away. But that, it worked out good. I think I told you the last time that I was going to put that other strange phenomena chapter in there, and I'm glad that I did, because now I can write about UFOs, I could write about Bigfoot, I could write about premonitions, which will be out in the next book. So,
Ooh.
um, yeah.
Evening, Waza. Glad to have you watching us tonight.
Hi, Waza.
Another another original guest from the first 10 or 15 episodes out of the UK. Some interesting stories from him too. I'm sure I got to get back on soon to
Yeah.
see what else he's been up to investigating lately. But
Paranormal
you just
investigating?
oh yeah, yeah. He told me about a church he investigated in the UK last time that was freaking such a fascinating story. Like it was, I don't want to give away secrets that people can hear in other episodes, but it involves a shag or black dog, and it's very very interesting.
Oh,
So
cool.
yeah, I mean anything anything like that is just amazing. So I gotta get you back on, Waza. Definitely do. So, but you piqued my interest because, well, one, okay, you piqued my interest for like everything you said in that statement, but premonitions. I've been I've been having premonitions since I was a kid, but they were
So did
always
I. So did
like,
I. I had them when I was really young, and they could be something as simple as knowing I was going to buy something down the line and what it was and what it looked like, to something really horrible happening. And my mom used to just say, because they came to me in dreams, she would say to me, "Oh, it was just a dream. Oh, it's just a nightmare." And so I never really thought much about it. And then one, I had something really, really bad happen, and it happened in real life then after it was in this dream premonition. And mom, of course, said it was a nightmare. And then when it came true, it freaked me out. So I think I kind of shut down or stifled whatever gift of premonition I had at that point. And I think I even mentioned to you the last time that I just shut down altogether until I was 30, when stuff started coming back to me. But I never got the gift of premonition again. And I don't know if that's a gift or a curse, but
yeah. I mean, it's definitely slowed down for me in recent years. I mean, maybe it's because I smoke weed now, and maybe it's because of drinking too. I don't freaking know, but when I was like in middle school, high school, it would be the stupidest premonitions ever of just conversations that will happen 3, 4 weeks down the road, a month later, and it's just like,
mm-hmm.
oh yeah, that's that a conversation. Not even my conversations, random people's conversations, and I'll just be like, why is it so familiar? Like it doesn't make sense. And they'll be like, wait a minute, I dreamt about this like weeks ago. What the hell?
Mm.
I'm like, why can't it be lottery ticket numbers or something? Come on, something good. But yeah, so premonitions were part of my life for a long time, and they never amounted to anything, but it was just weirdness, like deja vu over and over again.
Yeah, yeah,
What,
it's kind of like a deja vu moment. Exactly.
which I don't know if that's how you felt. Yeah, I mean, it's so weird when it happens. And like for the longest time until you get used to it, and then right when I started getting used to it, it stopped happening. I was like, oh, Okay, whatever. Never did me any good anyway. But the other thing you said that piqued my interest was Bigfoot, because you know I
Yeah,
love
well,
me some New
that's why
Jersey Bigfoot.
that's why I wrote the other strange phenomena chapters in the book, because when I was writing the very first one, the first book, it was only supposed to be Sussex County hauntings. And then people were messaging me with their Bigfoot stories and their UFO stories. So they're not necessarily ghostly stories, but they were really, really good. And it was about my county. So I said, well, how am I going to get these stories into the book? So I added the other strange phenomena chapters, and I was really glad that I did, because that really has opened up a whole world of other topics for me to talk about. I still write about Bigfoot because I have those chapters. So when people come to me with more Bigfoot stories, I add them because of that. UFO stories, the same. And I was able to write about the near death experiences in the Warren County book, and visits from deceased loved ones, or when people were with their loved ones at their time of death. And like I said, I did reincarnation this time, and will be doing premonitions. And I have a whole slew of other topics like interdimensional stuff, and
Hmm.
astral projection. These are all things that I want to write about, but wouldn't normally be able to do if I didn't have the other strange phenomena chapters added to the books themselves. You know.
Let me ask you: have you ever talked or worked with Mike Familant? Familant. I'm sorry, my
Oh yeah,
butchered
Mike
your name,
Familon. He
but
lives in Sussex County. Yeah, in fact, he's
yeah.
he's been on paranormal investigations with my group in the past. So
Oh, okay.
I actually am going to be interviewing him in November. We did an interview together, and the internet messed up the whole recording, so he and I have to redo it again in the next month or so. But he is in the first book. I wrote about him in my
Oh,
first
okay.
book because of his whole history with Bigfoot and experiences with Bigfoot, and having founded his group and his page and all that stuff. He's really got some good background in the Bigfoot arena.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
Ooh,
Could
Siri
you
is
please
talking to
say
me.
that again?
Sorry, Siri. Does that happen just
Series.
automatically by itself like that?
Oh, God, yeah. Series a haunted device. Come on now.
That's never happened to me before. Oh my goodness, that is so strange. Sorry.
No, it's all good. Well, I mean, the reason I asked is because Mike was on my podcast back. His episode released back in September, and he and I just thought of it. I was talking to you. I'm like, oh yeah, Mike's from Sussex County, and
Yep.
his whole
Mm-hmm.
like his whole big red eye like thing that he,
Yes.
which I never knew about that about New Jersey Sasquatches that they have glowing red eyes sometimes. Like I never heard that until I talked to him.
Yeah.
But so
Pretty
I'm like I have
interesting.
to. I was like, I have to mention him and see if she's worked with him before, because if not, I could set
Oh
us up a
yeah.
grave here.
Yeah. Yeah,
But
he's
right,
he's like he's
he's
a big part of that Bigfoot chapter in the first book. Yeah.
I see. I read it. I just must not put two together. That's weird.
See?
But yeah, I should have. So, any interesting Bigfoot stories that stick out from the new one that you can give us a hints on?
Well, you know what? It's strange because you know that there have been stories that have been over the years, but you don't know them until people come and share them with you. And I do have people that come that are still living. They're in their 70s and their 80s, that have come to me and said, "Oh, when I was a kid in the 60s, or when I was a kid in the 70s, this is what happened," and that's how I end up getting stories from back then. Although I have had more recent accounts that have occurred, like one that happened in 2019, and the other one I think happened around 2019, 2022. So people are still experiencing Bigfoot here in Sussex County.
I mean, not surprising because Bigfoot is still seen everywhere. Basically, still, it's like
Yeah.
it's not going to stop until people
Nope.
admit that it's a real creature that they need to acknowledge instead of
Absolutely.
keep them to be like a tabloid thing. But I mean, I've heard so many stories about Sasquatch in the last couple months that it's just been like, why can't the government admit it? Why can't they? It's just so sad. But maybe next time there's a major pandemic, they'll admit Bigfoot that time instead of UFOs. But I don't know. But you did mention UFOs as well, which that's the first thing. As soon as you said UFOs, I was like, ooh, I love me some East Coast UFO
There have been
stories.
one of my team members, Art Peterson. He lives up in the mountains, and he just recently got some good video footage of um, UFO lights in the sky on the mountain where he lives. So they're out there. If you're looking for them, you can see them more than you think.
Yeah, I mean, my wife swears she sees them all the time around our house and stuff too. When she's outside on the front porch, like she says she'll see something in the air and just it's not a plane. I mean, we live near a private airport, but still, it's not a plane. And it's just they'll sit there, and then after a while, they just gone. Like can't even, within like a blink of an eye, they're just gone into space. It's weird.
Yep.
So I mean, Massachusetts is a big UFO spot though, so it's kind of expected. Sometimes when I'm
Yeah.
walking the dogs and
We
I
just
look in the sky too.
my daughter and I just watched. You said Massachusetts, right?
Yes, I did.
We just watched a really great episode on unsolved mysteries about the Berkshires back in the
Hmm.
60s, and just crazy that that whole town experienced it in that night, and a lot of them had missing time and no explanation for that missing time. I actually have a coworker who swears that she missed time, and after she came back and realized she'd lost the time, she's had medical issues ever since. So that's kind of crazy.
Not as crazy as you may think. Okay, this echo is driving me crazy. I'm just saying, but um, my wife, ever since she was a child, swears she's been abducted. And some nights, like I'll go to bed before her, and she'll come into bed like at 3, 4 in the morning, and she'll be like, "I just lost 2 hours of time, and I have no idea how." Like I was
Mm,
literally just sitting there on the front porch smoking a cigarette. Next thing I know, I look at my phone. And next thing I know, it's 2 hours later, and I was not there the whole time, just standing there. Like there's no way. So it's weird. I mean, she swears by it. And her sister, when she was a kid, used to say she used to wake up in the middle of the night and she'd go everywhere and look for her, and she wouldn't do it to find her. So she'd go back to bed, and then the next morning she'd be in her bed.
hmm.
So it's it's weird. I mean, the missing time thing definitely happens. I believe it. I've had people on the show who have been abducted. I actually had a person on my show named Russ Kellett from the UK who he does a podcast now, but he was abducted by aliens multiple times to, according to him, fight in an alien army
Hmm.
on a planet. Which I mean, the story is fascinating. It's one of the most listened to episodes because it's such a amazing story. I mean, and he believes he's telling the truth. He 100% believes this is what happened to him. He has drawings he does and everything else too, where he draws the creatures that make him fight an army with other races.
Wow.
So it's, I mean, true or not, it's just an amazing story, and it was fascinating as hell to listen to and ask about.
Hmm.
But yeah, it's just, I mean, let me ask you this: have you ever come across anybody giving you a story about mirrored men?
About what?
Mirrored men,
Spell it. The first word.
mirror, ed.
Oh, like a mirror. Like you're looking into a mirror. Mirrored men? No. That is the first time I've ever
Uh,
heard anything like that.
all right, I'm not. I mean, I'm honestly not too surprised because it's a lesser known phenomenon, but it's growing. People are coming forward with their stories after this like got a name, and now it's kind of a bigger thing. But we were talking about missing time, so that's why it came to my head because
Yeah.
mirrored men are usually three humanoid male figures usually male figures walking in complete synchronization, and people will see them usually late at night looking out their windows of their house, or sometimes there's been stories in the woods as well. Once you see them, like people lose 8, 9 hours of time once they see them, and they have no idea what happened. It's just the strangest
Oh
thing.
my God, that's
And
creepy. Ooh, I'd rather go ghost hunting than see mirrored men. Have you heard
I
about
mean,
the black-eyed children?
oh God, yes. We did an episode about them actually on my show discussion podcast, Global Strangeness. It was a fun topic to focus on for that episode. I mean, it's more of an urban legend, but I feel like they have to exist somewhat. I mean, there's too many stories of people like seeing them and dealing with them that it's just not true. Like that can't not be true. People wouldn't mass make this up across the world.
I read an article online about a couple that actually let them in, and they ended up getting really sick, and I'm talking like cancer, radiation shit going on. So
Yes,
it's kind of weird.
I mean I have heard stories about like people who let them in too, and it's never good. Like their husband or wife will die shortly after, or it just gets bad. It gets really bad, and part of me, I don't know what they are. I mean, but we had a comment when we were doing the episode about it, asking us if we heard about white-eyed children who supposedly control the black-eyed
White
children.
eye,
Yeah,
really? Huh.
I mean it was creepy, and Waz actually adds there's Native American stories about children with
Oh,
black
there's
eyes as
Waza. There are
well.
some Native
So
American stories about children with black eyes.
yeah,
Really? I mean, I've heard some pretty crazy stories, but that's something I didn't hear about either.
I haven't heard about that one either.
Huh.
I mean, I'm actually maybe I have. I don't honestly know. Because I mean, well, the Mirrored Men. The reason I brought that up is because it comes from Monsters Among Us podcast. That's where it got big, and he did a whole
Mm-hmm.
special. Derek Hayes, who's been on my show as well, has done. He did a whole special dedicated to Mirrored Men, like stories, and a lot of it was like in the '90s and early 2000s. Like it was just people remembering stuff when they were kids, and then like they'd lose the whole night. Like they'd be staring out their bedroom window, and they would still be staring out at like next day, like at 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and it was like 10 or 11 when they were looking out their window. It's creepy. It's so creepy.
Well, I
So,
think that the
I mean,
first story about the black eyed children was reported by an actual news reporter. He was in his vehicle, randomly stopped at, I think, at a laundromat or something. Don't quote me on that, but he was just out and about in his vehicle when he was approached by these black eyed children. And he had this guarded intuition that told him to just, you know, not give them any attention because there was just something off about them. Even though they looked like they were children, there was just something not right about them, and that he needed to fight as quickly as he could to not give in to opening the door and letting them in. And he swears, I can't remember the guy's name, but he swears, yeah, Ashley, how they are really interesting. But in this particular instance, he said that he felt that if he had given in and allowed them into the car, he probably would have went missing, and people wouldn't have been able to find him or been killed or something as drastic as that.
I mean, it's amazing. Like one of my favorite rappers, a guy named Boondocks, he actually did a song about black-eyed children. Like that's how
Oh, did
widespread they
he
are.
really?
There's actually multiple artists who have done songs about black-eyed children, like metal artists and rappers. Like there's a lot of artists out there that have done songs about them.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that. I know that there was recently a movie out about it, but it's just movies about
Yeah.
entertainment, so I wouldn't trust it too much as long as it scares you. I guess that's the main
Oh,
thing. And I think there's actually a,
exactly.
a comic book series based on Black Eyed Children too, from what I understand. But
I've heard
I'm
of
I'm
that
more
too.
about I'm more about trying to get a hold of the true account stories from people. That to me is more scary than an
It,
actual film. You know what I mean?
it seems to happen in big cities, like in big. It seems to happen in big cities and very urban areas. Like that seems to be where the stories come from a majority of the time, from what I've heard. And I mean, I've heard stories where people are going up to like a kid who's homeless, like sitting in the middle of like a busy intersection, and he'll just be sitting there, and they go over and like they try to talk to him, he doesn't answer, he doesn't respond, and then they go look at his face, and it's just pure black eyes, and
Mm.
he's just like, and they keep and like they're they were about to like take him with them and like try to help him. But I've
I
heard
feel
multiple
I feel
stories like
like
that.
I feel like it's like that hitchhiker moment. You know what I mean? Like you're in the car and you see this person hitchhiking and you're like, should I stop or shouldn't I? Like, should I let them in? Shouldn't I let them in? And then you know that inner voice is telling you, don't friggin' let them in. But somehow that
Yeah, I
you're
know.
tempted to pull over and actually open up the door because you feel bad because it's a child and they're saying they need help.
Yeah, I mean, I feel the same way. It's just, I don't know. I feel like they're a real thing, and now it's the white-eyed children I want to know more about, but there's so
I've never
limited
heard of
information on
that
that.
before. I've never even heard of that before. There's so many things I'm hearing about now that I never even knew about before that I'm learning about now.
Well, they're lesser-known things. They're not the big
Yeah, they
five
really are, I'm sure.
like cryptids. I mean, it's just I don't know if they're we didn't hear about it either to that show we did, and the people commenting on it were like, "Oh yeah, white-eyed children they control black-eyed kids." I'm like, what? What's this then? Like,
For real?
is this some kind of like shadow society of creepy people? Like, I the Illuminati. It's the Illuminati. It has to be.
Do you think it's extraterrestrial?
Mirrored men, I think, may definitely be extraterrestrial. Black eyed kids, I mean, black eyes by all supernatural lore and everything else mean demonic.
What do you think, Waza? I'd
I
like to know what your opinion is.
we got one watcher still, whether it's Waza or Ashley, I don't know who it is, but
Well,
I mean,
Waza was talking to us about the Native American black-eyed kids. He was the one who told us
eh,
that he heard about Native Americans. Ashley was saying how she just found the stories interesting.
yeah, I mean, I'm saying I don't know. I don't know who the one person is watching anymore. We've had multiple people watching in and out for the whole show. It's been a good reception today. I actually appreciate it from my watchers, but
Oh
I have
yeah,
to ask
I
one
love
thing.
to interact with the audience.
It makes the show so much better when you can do that rather than just two people talking. I mean, no matter how interesting the conversation is, the comments may think of things I didn't think of to ask, and that's what I love about it.
Yeah, me
Which
too.
then I slap myself in the back of the head like, why didn't you think of that? But of course, I mean, I think I asked you this last time, but and well, mainly for the new book, any Jersey Devil sightings?
No, I don't have anything. But you know, to me, when I write about Bigfoot and the New Jersey Devil in New Jersey are really considered the same thing. They they're one and the same. It's just that in different parts of the country and the world, they describe this Bigfoot creature in different ways. Some in other places it's Sasquatch, in other places it's the abominable snowman. It's the way they interpret it and where they are. Yeah, they say that ours has red eye, but I've also heard red eye in other places as well. So it's just that it's been known to be called in areas in New Jersey as the big red eye, and other
Yeah,
people interpret it as Bigfoot. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, whenever I do get a story about Bigfoot, I do include it in my books. But in this particular edition that came out, um, there's two Bigfoot stories. Yeah, one that took place in Wantage, and one that took place in, I think it was Bergen County, off the top of my head. But yeah, there are Bigfoot stories, but it's not like a whole chapter like I had in the first book. There's Waz's answer. He said,
yeah,
what's interesting is the questions they ask to get in the house, like, we can use your telegram. It's like they can get that time period right. It's true, Waza, but they also say that there's a slight differentiation. Like they're dressed for the time frame, but they're not dressed for the time frame. Like there's always something that's off that's just not right. And that's what makes the person second guess whether they should let those beings into their residence.
yeah. It's funny. The rap song I mentioned, the chorus of it is actually, "Please, sir, won't you let me in?"
Oh, really? I never knew rappers did that kind of stuff.
Certain rappers and industries I like horrorcore, they love anything paranormal. Aliens are mentioned constantly. I haven't really heard Bigfoot references. I don't know why, but actually maybe one or two, like just a name drop. But it's interesting.
I'm sure
And
if there's
see, I
something,
don't.
and anything that's going to be scary, something that's going to be different and new and scary, they're going to hop on, right?
Eh, sometimes, I mean, they usually stick to more horror movie ideas than actual cryptid ideas. But it's funny because I don't picture Jersey Devil and the Sasquatch being the same thing. Because Jersey Devil has such an interesting backstory and such different like common signs when people see him compared to Sasquatch.
Well, I've had people who have told me stories that are state park rangers. You get a lot of hunters, um,
Hmm.
and you've had actual police officers. People that you wouldn't expect to have stories, but they come out with them
Yeah, it's crazy that like, well, I mean, hunters you kind of expect though. I mean,
because yeah,
most
they're
of the
out in the
missing
woods. Yeah,
most of the missing 411 that you hear about in documentaries are hunters.
right.
Which I mean, that's a whole nother topic because I mean, what do you think about that though? Like, have you seen the maps on Facebook where like it lines the hunters that are like the missing 411 people up with like the cave systems on the east and west coast?
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you find that weird at all or creepy that like
Of
what
course,
lives in
it's
those caves?
creepy. Yeah, of course.
I mean, I don't know. It kind of lends credence to the Hollow Earth theory, in my opinion.
The what theory?
Hollow Earth,
Oh, Hollow Earth. Okay.
that the idea that there's these massive cave systems that could be leading to kind of like a cryptid den for a lot of different cryptids.
I wouldn't put it past that there's something like that. I mean, here in Sussex County, we have what we call underground tunnels, and they go from one area of New Jersey to another area of New Jersey, and there are branches all over the place. And under main towns, they used to actually use them for
Prohibition.
storage, and people from one side of the town would walk to
Oh,
the other side of the town in the hottest days of the summer because it was cooler down there. So they're accessible. I mean, nowadays they've closed off a lot of them because they've had accidents where people got lost in them. But hey, if they're here in Sussex County, they can be anywhere.
exactly. And I actually had a paranormal investigator and podcaster from Pennsylvania on my show named Lon Strickler. I don't know if you heard of him.
No.
Oh, he does a weekly broadcast or multiple time weekly broadcast called Phantoms and Monsters Radio.
Oh,
He's
okay.
a he's a brilliant man, but he was on my show and he said that like dogmen live in mines in Pennsylvania. That's where their bases are, kind of like their homes.
Huh.
And he even had reports of dragons around the mines in Pennsylvania,
Wow.
which I mean, the whole it just lends credence to the idea that these cave systems may be where Sasquatch have been living for so long on the east and west coast at least,
Harboring. Yeah, 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 yeah. Who
and
knows?
like
I would
Bigfoot,
love it if we could
Dogman,
find out.
Rakes, and Pale. It would take a paranormal investigation team of huge number, and they'd have to plan weeks ahead of time and leave like go bags like all throughout the cave so they can keep getting supplies to survive until they make it to the other side. I mean,
Hmm.
Native Americans used to do it for spirit quests. They used to go through the caves from one side to the other.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So I mean, wherever you come out, I mean, you may go in New Jersey and come out in North Carolina or even Georgia or Florida. Who knows?
You never know. Unfortunately, in Sussex County back in the 1800s, there were three siblings that actually went into um, the cave system and never made it out alive. The family lost all three of them. They got lost down there. They never recovered the bodies. Hi, Harold Richardson. Nice to see you.
Yeah, I don't know if they got lost or if they got eaten.
Oh, that's terrible. I don't want to think about that.
I know it is terrible. It's just, I mean, it's a possibility. I even as a kid, I wouldn't go into underground cave or a cave that I don't know where it ends up because that's just asking for whatever monsters may be down there waiting for you to come down. Like it's just, I don't know. Personally, I mean, I don't mess with caves unless I had a huge group of people with me.
Oh,
I would
I
not
wouldn't
mess with
either,
caves
especially when
ever.
they're tight, confined spots. Like in the first book, I wrote about a Boy Scout leader that took his, um, what I guess his scouts on an outing to do this cave exploring thing, and he got entrapped. He slipped, and his leg got caught in between two rocks, and they couldn't get him out.
Ooh,
He ended up dying of a hypothermia. They tried for hours to get him out, but they couldn't, and they didn't have the means to keep him warm, and he ended up of succumbing to the cold and died, unfortunately.
so I've heard similar stories, and it's always a sad thing to hear stuff like that. But Waz actually just said, Jeremy, have a look and check out Canuck Chase in UK. Bigfoot,
Yeah.
black eye kids, and wolfman creatures spotted. Your kind of place. Which
Ah.
see, Waza, when you come on again, we're going to talk about that now. Just saying. And Harold says he hasn't investigated a cave yet, and I don't
No
blame you,
way.
Harold.
Yeah, that would be interesting to hear about. I'd love to find out what you unearthed while you were there.
I mean, if I go into a cave, I ain't bringing a damn shotgun because I don't know what the heck I'm running into in that cave, and I don't want to take chances. But I mean, I had someone from the North American Dogmen Society or North
Mm-hmm.
Dogmen on my podcast, and like some of the stories he told about being in the land between the lakes up in Wisconsin is terrifying. Like,
Really?
and if dogmen live in caves in the east of coast, then I don't want to run into one because I don't feel like having my body shredded to pieces.
Mm.
I mean, it's just I don't know, it's creepy, but I mean, I love
Jeremy, I
dogmen.
can't
They're
hear
one of
you
my
all of
like.
a sudden. You're talking,
Oh,
but
I
I can't
think
hear you.
uh low
I'm up in the
internet
mountains, so
sig.
my internet might we have having a rainstorm over here, so sometimes the rain
Same.
kind of gets interferes
Any
with.
better?
Can you
Can you
hear
hear me
me
now?
now? Because I can't hear you.
I can hear you fine. Hold on.
Jeremy, are you there?
Wait a minute.
Should I try and leave the studio and come back in, maybe? Hello? Oh, I don't know what to do. I'm going to try leaving the studio and come back in, maybe.
Can you hear me now? Okay, now you're frozen. Yeah, there we go. Eleanor, you there? Yeah, I don't blame you, Harold. I'd be scared of caves too. I mean, I am. I wouldn't go messing around in one unless I had a really good reason. But it looks like Eleanor lost Wi-Fi signal. Everybody, well, she dropped off. Hopefully, she gets back in. My signal's not the best either right now, so I mean, it is what it is. All right. My guest has lost internet connection, I'm guessing, so we'll see. So yeah, while we wait for my guests to come back, please be sure to check out Monsters Among Us for the more about the Mirrored Men. It truly is a creepy phenomenon. I mean, is it Men in Black oriented? Is it UFO alien oriented? Like who knows? Like it could be a lot of different things. I don't know what to tell you. And it interests the hell out of me to no end. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. So please check that out. And in case she doesn't get back on, please make sure to check out Eleanor's books, Sussex County Hauntings, parts 1 through 3. Be sure to check out Warren County Hauntings, and I believe she wrote a fantasy book as well. If I'm remembering right, I'm not sure, but if so, please check them out. They're all on Amazon. Just or go to eleanorwagner.com. Feel free to check them out. And you all know where to find me. I'll do that now in case you just come back on, so we have more time. But you can find me on Facebook as Paranormal Normal / Maniacal Music Podcast, the S Facebook group. You can find me on Twitter and the Gram as @JuggaloBastard. And you can find me on the TikTok as Juggalo Bastard Podcast. And you can find me on YouTube as Paranormal Normal. All my videos are uploaded there as soon as the episode releases. But let's see what... I don't know if I'm going to be able to get back on, so I'm just going to end it here. It's been a long episode anyway for you guys. So thank you all for watching. I've appreciated it. And for all my listeners, I'll see you in half a week. Thank you.